On today's episode, guys, we have a special guest, Leonard Webb. Leonard retired from law enforcement to focus on improving educational outcomes of students and improving relationships between administrations, teachers, parents, as well as students. He is focused on directly addressing the school to prison pipeline by providing equity based solutions, bringing accountability to school leaders while increasing attendance and decreasing suspension and expulsion. His work with the schools and community has led him to being appointed by the governor of Hogan, Maryland, to the Juvenile Justice School Board for the state of Maryland. Fellas, give a warm welcome to Leonard Webb. Leonard, how you
How
doing,
you
my
doing?
friend?
Good
I'm
to see you.
good, definitely. I'm so excited to have you with us today, man. I'm glad you took in time for us.
Anytime. I'm always willing to serve.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. So listen, man, I want to ask you one question real quick before we get started, and that is, um, great leaders lead with a strong sense of purpose and vision. Right? Did you discover your purpose?
It took a long time. I guess I was walking in it for a while. I was counseling men that found themselves incarcerated. And when I first started, it was just general population. You know, it could be a guy in there for stealing out of somebody's mailbox to human trafficking.
Mm.
And then I began to focus on younger men that were in the prison system, under 30, that had more than 5 years on their sentence. And then my last 10 to 12 years was spent helping men transition that had substance abuse problems to society. And I was just going along and I was doing a lot of good work. I felt, but I felt since I worked for the government, I felt there was some resistance. I felt like there was some restraint on what I really wanted to do. And one day, a lady called me and she was thanking me for working with her son. And she said, I wish that there were people like you to work with the kids.
Mm.
And I thought about it for a second. And the first thing I thought was, why am I not doing that? Because I was having a lot of success helping men stay out of prison. And there's a saying by Desmond Tutu that says, sometimes you got to stop pulling people out of the river and figure out why they're falling in.
Oh, that's good.
And it was just, you know, a shift. Like you say, there was a shift to say, not just why not I'm doing it. And it was, what's the reason I haven't started yet? And in
Mm.
that shift, I left the prison system to work more with the young people, to keep them from coming to prison and having that, to deal with that the rest of their lives.
Man, that's real good. I really love that quote you just gave by Desert Tutu. That's real good. So before we kick it off, man, please introduce yourself, share with people more detail about what you do, and share some of your accolades. Because I know that you've written a couple books, if I'm not mistaken.
A journal for teenagers that's called Youth Champs, and the champ stands for choices, habits, attitude, mindset, and purpose. And I co-authored another book, which was an Amazon bestseller with 18 other men, and it's called Impact of Influence. And volume 2, there's 5 volumes now, but I was part of volume 2, which was great. And I spend my time in the school system trying to change the narrative for young people, especially people that are most affected by the school to prison pipeline. And I should probably explain what that is. It's a set of policies and procedures that are in place that push students out of the school and makes them more likely to end up in our criminal justice system. And those include zero tolerance policies, having police in the schools, which impact mostly Black and brown children, LGBTQ, and children with disabilities. And you'll find across the country that they are more suspended, more expelled, and more arrested in schools by an average of 3 times than their white counterparts. So my goal is to bring relationships to people that don't look like you, and helping administrators and teachers build relationships with people that don't look like them, because almost 80% of our school teachers in America are white women. Almost 90% of our administrators are white men. Only 2% of teachers in America are Black males. So I want to make that shift in building the relationships, because that's what really matters when you talk about discipline. It's understanding the point of view. It's having empathy. So I like to build that in my program.
Yeah, that's real good. So when it comes to ending the school to prison pipeline, how do you
I
do
have
that?
a LLC, Evolutionary Motivation, and I go to schools and do professional development workshops. I work with young people on developing a mindset of building and overcoming. My motto is connect, inspire, and grow.
Mm, I like that. Connect, inspire, and grow. That's real good. Now, I know you made this transition from was it federal prison to students?
Yes.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about that journey. I know the impact that you were making, some of the pros and cons, and what really led up into the transition.
In prison systems, we weren't preparing men to return to society. We were just making it so they were comfortable in prison.
Hmm.
And if they're comfortable somewhere, there's no reason to come back. And what happens to young people is once they get involved with the criminal justice system, they realize I can do this. And then that's the point that it breaks, that they understand that they're able to do that, and they don't see the promise that they have in them. So what I first wanted to do in a prison system was to start with relationships. Because these men are coming back to society. So I started with shake my hand, fist bump.
Mm.
I started calling the guys in there Mr. instead of inmate so-and-so, because nobody calls you inmate when you're out in the streets. They call you Mr. or Sir.
Yeah.
So developing that mindset and having them be aware of kind of the social norms that are necessary to survive on the outside, despite all the other pressures that involve being in
Said something that
society.
really triggered for me, because I work with incarcerated men in personal development, and recovery, right? And I love what you said, how you addressed them with Mr. and Sir. What were some of the findings? Did you start noticing a behavior change or a switch or attitude being addressed differently than other than an inmate?
Sense of pride, sense of somebody sees me as a human being.
Yeah.
It didn't win me a lot of friends with the staff members, because that's the norm in prison. You're an inmate, you're a number. But I wanted to see themselves as men, a work in progress,
Yeah.
someone that's may have made a mistake and may be at the worst point of their lives, but there's still life there. You're still breathing. You still have potential. You still can live your dreams. This is just, a bump in the road. And once their mindset shifts, their behavior change. Now, instead of missing a child's graduation, they were going home on time because they weren't getting into trouble. They weren't losing, good time. They weren't losing commissary. They weren't losing phone privileges. So every relationship improved. It improved within the prison system and improved with their relationships outside the prison system. And what you had was not a better inmate, you had a better person.
Oh, come on. Yeah, that's good. That's real good. And I heard you say that the staff didn't really gravitate to that. So there was some friction there. You were in there, there was a culture shift or change that you were actually leading, right? I love it because as I work with them, I address them as sirs, and I had an individual tell me, say, I'm not a sir. I said, yes, you are. He didn't see himself as that. He had been so programmed to be an inmate or a number. It was interesting. I met another guy who had been out over 7 years and still remember his inmate number. but could not relate to being addressed as a Mr. or a sir. I love that, man. I definitely love how you approach
Was
that.
a Native American.
Mhm.
I used to call him Chief. And one day he pulled me aside and said, no, don't call me Chief. And in my culture, that's a name of prominence. That's a name that they give to somebody important. And I said to him, I'm speaking it into existence.
Yeah.
And the look on his face was like, wow, he doesn't see me as an inmate. It's just a human thing. It's not that I was breaking any sort of prison regulations or anything. The prison culture was there.
Yeah.
I was just changing the culture.
Yeah. That's real good. And so you went through that process and then leave the judicial system to work with youth. How has that transition been for you? And share some of the impact that you're making now.
It's ironic to say, but it was seamless. Our school systems are set up just like the prison system.
Mm.
And that's what's sad.
Mhm.
And some that I've been to, it often looks like a prison.
Mm.
The way teachers address students, the way that they come into the building and are not greeted, and there's a sense of lack of trust, and you don't build relationships there. And if I don't trust you, I can't learn from you.
Yeah.
And that's one of the problems in our school systems. So it was seamless, which shocked me. I thought I had to be a different person. And I realized I do have to be a different person. I have to be that person, that same person that started shaking hands with incarcerated men. I had to be that same person that called men sir. And the most important thing is the kids saw that. And now I'm building relationships, and now I'm able to make a different kind of impact. And when I say I found out how they're falling in because we're making our schools look like prisons, feel like prisons, smell like prisons, and have the same type of prison
Tell me
discipline.
more about that person. What was some of the change that you had to develop for yourself personally, a personal leadership change, so you can better connect?
In the school system, because I had a prison system background and they expected me to be a certain way.
Mhm.
And the first thing I had to do is come out that that's not who I am. And that's not easy for me. I kind of let things go with the flow and then kind of lightly adjust, but I had to let them know immediately, you're not getting a guy from the prison system. So that was a difficult thing for me, because that's the expectation, was that I was going to come in there and enforce rules and scare kids and all that kind of stuff.
So they
Uh,
wanted the tough guy mentality.
Wanted the tough guy. I think they saw that on my resume and was like, yeah, bring him in. Because my first long-term sub assignment was at an alternative school,
Mhm.
and they skipped over people to put me there.
Wow.
So
All because of the background.
the background. So I had to change that narrative for the staff members.
Yeah.
They were excited to have an enforcer there. And I said, that's not who I am. The relationship with children and youth is different because they require more trust, and
Mhm.
trust is a process. So they had to feel safe with me first.
Mhm.
And there had to be some type of comfort level, but also I had to have some transparency. And in the same light, where you work in a prison system and they tell you not to tell these guys anything, they'll take it and use it against you and all this kind of stuff, which I broke away from. I had to be able to be transparent to a point of, hey, Mr. Webb, you want to do a TikTok video with me? Sure. Because that's their world. That's how they're going to relate. And I'm saying to them, your world's important to me. No matter how bad I look dancing, no matter how bad I look on camera, your world is important to me. You're important to me beyond the school.
Unlock your true potential with the Leadership Community, where we empower men to embrace self-awareness and authenticity. Introducing the Leadership Community, where we believe in helping men become the best version of themselves. It all starts with self-awareness, and we encourage men to take a step back, pause, and reflect on their thoughts, emotions, and behavior. Embrace their authenticity and break free from societal expectations. Here are just a few testimonies from individuals. Leadership helped me develop self-awareness and embrace my authentic self. And now I feel more confident and fulfilled. Question: are you ready to unlock your potential? If so, join the leadership community today. I know that there's a high percentage of Black men in prison, and many of these individuals or kids grow up without the male figure in their life, man. Do you think that has some aspect in how they connected with you?
Absolutely. Absolutely. If you see it, you can be it. And they saw me as what they deemed as successful. And I'm sure they looked at me as, even though a lot of them were older than me in the beginning, as a father figure sometimes, as a role model. And when you have that, they don't want to disappoint you. I've had plenty of guys who made mistakes, got in fights, did things while they're in prison. And they would say to me, I'm sorry I disappointed you. I'm sorry. I said, you don't have to be sorry to me. We wake up and we start over. There's a clean slate. And I think that's what kids don't get in school, is that once you get this reputation of a troublemaker, there is no longer much patience for you when you're making mistakes. But kids are going to make mistakes. That's what they're there for, to make mistakes. We're not, we don't send kids to school as a finished product. They're there to make mistakes so they can learn. That's what learning is about, is making mistakes. And if they're not there and they're not sitting and getting, then there's something wrong with them. And that's just not the case.
That's real good. So here's my next question for you. Speaking to the men out here who may have been in prison, may not have been in prison, but they feel like life has thrown them a curveball. They don't feel like they have the limiting beliefs. They have the doubt. They haven't found the confidence. What would you say to that individual to inspire him to chase after his purpose or goals?
I think one of the things, there are three things I think for men today, especially young men, that get in the way. It's the media portrayal of men, especially Black men, social media, and mental health. And I think mental health goes with the first two. First thing about mental health is, one, it's not accessible. And two, statistically speaking, we're not willing to go. And the fact that we try and do a lot of stuff alone when we don't have to. We have men like you out there. We have plenty of men out there to support, but a lot of us fear failure. We have this fear of failure, and failure is part of success. The only way you get to success is by experience failure. So
Yeah.
don't be afraid to experience failure. Next, I would say, don't be stressed if you don't know the answers to everything. You don't have to know the answers to everything. And the third thing is, find a mentor. Find somebody that been down your path or may have similar experiences or feelings in the past, and build yourself a community, a small group that you can count on. I think men fail because, one, we're not secure with ourselves, because we sit on social media, we see the media portrayals of us, and we think we have to fall into that category because that's typically our brand. For me, it's just the spirit of leave everything better than you found it.
Yeah,
And
that's good.
realize that success is a moving target and an evolving mindset. And don't be afraid of that change. Don't be afraid of that failure when it comes, because it's coming. And the last thing I say is always self-assess. And one of the biggest part for me for self-assessment is identifying the things that no longer serve you.
Mm.
And for the men that were in prison, this doesn't serve you. This doesn't serve your family. And for young people, it's sometimes our friends know they've already gone down that path, and they no longer are going where we're going, and that's okay too. And there's some things we have to leave behind.
We think we can do it on our own. I think if you say if you said anything, I think that's probably one of the key elements that men don't think they need to help. They don't think they need to find a community of people, like-minded individuals, or people who I often tell them, I say, find somebody who does it better than you. Find somebody who's doing what you want to do, but they do it better than you, and then go learn from them. I remember sitting in the classroom, and I heard the professor. He was this was his like his third job. He was uh director of a nonprofit, and he shared this statement. I got to make my organization has to make $30 million a year, and I thought about it. I said, how in the world do you make $30 million a year? At that of course, at that time, my mindset couldn't phantom that, right? Like, how do you make $30 million a year? And I said to myself, he's the guy I need to know. He's the guy I need to connect to, right? And long story short, I literally was able to train or yeah, I guess I can say that, train under this guy and his staff for 30 days, just to, to understand how he did things, to become the best, be a better leader, understood what leadership was. He was passionate about leadership. And so to that place and point, I always encourage men, find people who do it better than you, who doing what you want to do, and then connect with. I like that fear. We scared to fail, but you have to go through some element of failure that's going to lead you to success. So don't be scared of fear. Don't allow fear to hold you back. Then I really love this one, self-assess. I think if we would just take enough time to look back in our lives and ask ourselves the hard questions, look at the things that are not serving us, and then make a shift to figure out what we can do to better connect, man, hands down, I think we go a long way as far as men becoming best version of themselves. And that's real good. I really appreciate that one. So here's my next question for you, my friend. Um, I know you work with students. What's some of the challenges that you're finding or disconnect between parents and students? And what's some recommendations that parents you can leave with parents to better connect with their student?
Communication, communication, communication.
It don't change there, huh? What would you say to communication? What would communication look like?
I just did a workshop for financial aid, and what I found is there's a lack of communication as far as the parent and the student, where the student doesn't ask, do we have money to send me to college? The parent doesn't ask, what do you want to do? How do you, what's your definition of success? And they're a senior in high school and a financial aid bill comes in, and the student's sitting there like, I want to go to this school. And the parent's like, I don't have money. What do you want to do anyway? And you're stuck. The communication is the key, and it doesn't have to be deep. It just has to be impactful, and it has to be done early. If you're lucky enough to, be in that early stage where your child isn't in high school yet, now's the time to have those conversations about what they want to do, where their skills are, where their strengths are, how do they learn, what helps them learn better, and starting that conversation and saying, my parents told me, we don't have money for you to go to college. They told me that early. We're not taking a second mortgage. We're not doing this. Cool. I was one of those student loan kids. I was getting out of New York. So if it meant taking out a student loan, I was taking out a student loan, but they gave me the benefit, the blessing of being honest with me.
Yeah.
And we so don't want to disappoint our children that we don't have honest conversations with them. And they so don't want to disappoint us that they don't have honest conversations with us. And we have to open that door.
Yeah, that's real good. To the place and point, having honest conversation. I mean, those conversations can be hard. They can be difficult, especially parents don't want to expose or be vulnerable to the mere fact that their financial situations aren't where the kid may think they are. I just, sheesh, that's real good. I think about it because I got three girls at home, man. I got one in college, one on the way to college, and the other one, The one getting ready to go to college want to go leave the state. And I'm like, nah, we not, homie, not having that. You know, we had to have the tough conversation and let him know, hey, listen, I want you to go to school, but we're going to do some in-state study. You know, after you finished in 4 years, if you desire to go elsewhere, then you know what, to God be the glory, go do what you want to do. But at this time, dad can make sure that we can get you some in-state tuition and cover down on some housing and make sure you can eat, you know, because I experienced so many kids who go away for school and then they're desolate. They nothing in their pocket.
Another big thing is they're not living in your world. Then when you were 18, things are different for an 18-year-old today. Unfortunately, for an 18-year-old today, it's probably more like their grandparents' time. The way things are going in the country with banning books and all this type of stuff, separation of people. But we can't do it from the lens of where we were. We have to do it from the lens of where we're at now as a society.
Yeah, that's real good. That's man, that's golden right there. Because I think so many parents look at where they've been in life or what life looked like for them and try to raise their kids off of their experiences and what they think they know. It's interesting too. You mentioned I was just doing I was looking at what was it? Behaviors, how we make decisions, right? And there's two parts to that. One is our own world, what we understand in our world and what we know, you know, and then there's the bigger part of that. It's the world itself and everything we don't know, you know, and we try to make everything fit in our world, not realizing that we got a small portion of what we truly understand and know. And with things evolving to the place and point you mentioned, yeah, things are shifting quite frequently, quite often, and we can really make bad decisions, not be having a clear vision on or a clear understanding on what's going on in the world today. That's real good.
And you know, the fact of the matter is there's no parent manual. There's no perfect way to parent, and there's no perfect parent. It's okay to say, I don't know, but I'm going to help you find the answers. I don't know, but Dwayne knows. So Dwayne's been on that path. So I'm going to hook you up with Dwayne. My son plays college baseball, and my high school teammate was in the minor leagues for the Atlanta Braves and the California Angels. You know, I can't teach him how to throw a curveball or the right pitching technique. So I led him to him. That's when you have a community and we build with each other. I said, hey, Coach Mitchell, can you work with my son a little bit? Here's some videos. Sure. And that's how it works.
What do you think is what's the percent of parents doing just what you just said? You know what? I see that. I really see that it maybe in my parents' era and time where Coach Webb was a baseball coach, and I sent my son over to coach with Coach Webb. Today, I don't see that. I don't see those transactions taking place. Speak to that for me a little.
I think we've become less community and more competitive. And if I help you out, then that may be less to eat for my family. When the fact of the matter is, there's enough to eat for everybody. We all have enough tables and we all have enough food. If we just, society has become more selfish that you're going to take a spot from me. You're going to take my plate, and there's room at, you know, my theory is there's room at my table. Bring something. If you don't have nothing, then bring a napkin. Bring your appetite, and next time you'll have an opportunity. But you're welcome at my table as long as we align mindset wise. Because if you're there at the table, you're going to get some value, and you're going to be able to bring something to eat next time. We just want to starve each other, and because the old crab in the barrel thing, you know. But my success is your success, and I firmly believe success isn't a success without a successor.
Oh, come on, man! I can go another 10 minutes, 20 minutes with you on that right there, but that's good. I want to close this out, my friend. I want to close this out. But Before I do, tell the people where they can follow you at, find more information about what you do and how you serve.
I'm on all social media as Webvolutionary, and my website is intheschooltoprisonpipeline.com. The two is the number two. And my work is all about changing the face and the voice in education. And sometimes we just change the face, but I'm here to change the voice. I want to be heard. I want our children to be heard, especially the children that look like me.
I want you to close us out on this. Share with the people about your CHAMP program: choices, habits, attitude, mindsets, and purpose. What impact is it making? And give people a little insight about what you do in this CHAMPS program.
Mhm. Uh, those 5 core values is where I start, because that's through my experience is where the change can take place with our choices, our habits, our attitudes, our mindset, and our purpose. And I talk to kids about those very things. The book is actually a journal where they can write how they feel. There's writing portions that they can go in there and express their feelings, and then we talk about them, and then we apply them. You know, knowledge isn't power. Applied knowledge is power. How can I apply this to my life? How can I apply this to every aspect of my life, spiritually, mentally, psychologically, physically, even the choices I make in eating, how is that affecting my life? And I just put that in a whole holistic program to allow kids to be inspired and to grow.
That's real good. Real good. Leonard, man, this has been truly phenomenal. I want to say thank you for taking time and rocking with us on the Leadership Podcast, sharing your journey, sharing your experience and expertise, brother. I definitely wish you all the best moving forward. And I'll be honest, man, I love to grow with you in community and see how we can work together. Um, Awesome. Awesome. Now, I heard you mention a book a second time. Is there 2 books?
I was co-author on a second book, Impact of Influence, where 18 men came together and each wrote a chapter.
Okay. All right. So that's Impact to Influence Volume 2, correct?
It's the main author is Chip Baker.
Chip Baker. Okay, great.
I'm chapter 13.
Yo, chapter 13. Definitely go check it out, my friend.
When you just pick me up, I'll send you both copies. You know,
Oh, okay. Yeah, most definitely. Most definitely. Any final words for us, my man?
yeah. Just for everybody out there, be grateful. Gratitude is everything. Stretch yourself. A rubber band is useless unless it's being stretched, and we are human rubber bands. Continue to develop, be a lifelong learner, never stop learning. Success is a moving target and an evolving mindset. And lastly, always spend some time thinking and reflecting on your day and what you could do better, what you did best, and continue to grow, inspire others.
Guys, this is Leonard Webb, making big impact in Maryland. I want to encourage you, check Leonard out. Go follow him on his social media feed. Go check out the web page and go pick up the book, man. I think leaders are learners. And one way I love to learn is by reading. Listen, I want to say thank you for taking time with us on the Leadership Podcast. I'm your host, Dwayne Roberts. As you always hear me say, your success is in your hands. Have a phenomenal day with purpose, and God bless.